One thing we are especially good at as human beings is holding on to things long after they have served their purpose. This is something that I've not only seen in the people around me, whether it's clients and students that I've had the opportunity of working with, but also within my own story, within my own life. And even to this very day, I continue to find myself in places where I am holding on to something that no longer serves me or never served me to begin with, but I became so infatuated with, so in love with, so comfortable with that I held on to it for dear life. I fought for it to stay in my life instead of its moving forward, moving on, and dissipating from my experience to actually elevate my life. And it's something that I've become very empathetic about within other people. I used to be pretty hard on myself, therefore hard on others when it came to changing habits or changing the way in which we live, right? So I might see something in my life that is not serving me and I might let go of that thing. Let's say a certain way that I'm eating, right? I was eating all these processed foods. Now I'm eating real foods. And so I want everybody around me to feel the benefit of eating real nutrition. And so I start to tell everybody around me about, dropping the things that they're eating. I might even start to judge them. I might even go to the level of shaming them, all in the efforts of trying to get them to quote unquote eat better in order for them to live better. And so in the doing of that, I used to be the type of person who would get very frustrated. I would be confused as to why everybody didn't want to change until I started to see just how difficult it was for me to change certain habits within my life. Just how difficult it was for me to let go of things I had become so comfortable and used to, even though they were destructive within my own experience. And one of those examples in my life was like the stories I would tell myself about money, the stories I would tell myself about abundance and about scarcity and lack versus abundance and prosperity. Now, I didn't realize I was doing this. Just like most of us, we think that life is just happening to us. We fell on bad circumstances. Therefore, we have or don't have the money that we have in this moment. I used to believe that there was, some God out there who was deciding if some people could have something and others wouldn't, instead of taking that personal responsibility and understanding that my beliefs were creating my life. I wasn't at that place yet. And so I would, change habits around eating. I changed habits around drinking and smoking. I stopped drinking and smoking, long before it was cool to do so. Like I stopped doing so when it lost me friends or quote unquote friends. And it got me out of the environment that I had been comfortable with for the last 6 or 7 years prior. And so it seemed simple for me to drop certain habits. And so I looked at others and said, well, it should be simple for them to drop these habits. If you really want to stop smoking, you just stop smoking, right? But in reality, I had things like, again, with abundance where I would let money in sometimes and I would reject it, right? Or I would create these stories as to why I was always in a financial rut or whatever it was. And I'll be very honest with you. I am now in a place where I'm stepping into my abundance, but just before now, like moments before this video, I guess you could say, I was in a place where I was still in this perpetual recreation of the very same experiences around lack of finances and really lack in a lot of places that signify freedom for me. And so I'm only using this as an example to illustrate to us that oftentimes we hold on to things believing that there's something there for us, or we hold on to things believing that the other side is far too daunting, it's far too frightening for us to actually face, even though the other side is going to be the best thing for us. And in most cases, and probably in your case, it has to do with the relationship. There is somebody within your life right now that you are holding on to, believing that you can fix, believing that you can solve, like they are some type of a Rubik's Cube, right? Or Rubiks Cube. Rubik's Cube. That you can simply solve if you just spend enough time, if you put enough effort into it, if you get the right code, if you get the right algorithm. There's something you can do in order to change that person. And I'm here to tell you that there is nothing that you can do to change that person. Why? Because it was never your responsibility to change anybody in the first place. And this is something that has been easier and easier for me to say and easier for me to accept. But it used to be something I was not willing to accept. It was something that basically meant I would have to find my self-worth in other places, because for me, for a majority of my life, I found my sense of self-worth or worthiness or validation from quote unquote fixing other people, from changing people. Even the calling, the vocation that's on my life, I believe was about changing people. I believe was about fixing people. And the better I was at fixing people, the better I was as a human being, when in reality, my calling was simply to tell the truth. My calling was to speak truth. My calling was to guide or lead others to themselves and the highest version of themselves. But it's taken a while for me to get to this place. And I know for you, it seems like something close to impossible to let go of a relationship that has been serving its purpose as your conduit or as your source of validation. Now, you might have never heard it put that way, but that's exactly what's going on when we have these parasitic relationships. Now, I've often told my clients a story, or at least this example of a specific shark. There's a shark in the middle of the ocean somewhere, and it has a symbiotic relationship with a certain fish that it will not eat because this fish cleans its teeth. So the shark will let this fish eat the plaque off of his teeth in return from not eating this fish, right? That's the relationship. I will not eat you, little fishy, so long as you eat the plaque off my teeth because you're serving me a purpose. And so they have a symbiotic relationship. Now, from the outside, this relationship may look toxic or it may look confusing. The other fish may look and say, whoa, how's that shark just letting that fish be all up in his teeth? Look at that parasite of a fish. When in reality, they are both serving a purpose for one another. One is serving for food. One is serving for taking away bacteria that would otherwise lead to infections for that shark, etc. And this is the type of relationship dynamic that we find ourselves in time and time again. We find ourselves in these relationships where we are looking to serve as a sort of supply for an individual. And I don't want to get too deep into, the dynamic of narcissism and codependency per se, but even in just toxic relationships or in unhealthy relationships, right? Just a basic unhealthy, which is most relationships that we encounter. In most relationships, you will find an individual who is playing the role of the fixer, who is playing the role of the comforter, the nurturer, and the other who is the comforted, right? The other individual who is the parasite per se, the one who is gaining a sense of validation from taking and one who's gaining a sense of validation from giving. Both individuals in that scenario are not truly benefiting, but they believe that they are. Both individuals are as guilty as the next, right? It's so easy to say that person's the leech, when in reality, both individuals are getting something from that relationship dynamic. And that's something that I really had to come to terms with within myself. I had to face the truth, the gospel truth that was, in order for me to truly live a fulfilled life, I must completely let go of those relationships, whether it's with people, with things, with ideas that do not serve me. And I know that's become such a popular thing to say, but I'm not saying it from a standpoint of, like a Pinterest quote or an Instagram quote that's just real cute to post on a placard. When I say things that don't serve you, I mean literally. There are things within your life right now that you are doing, people that you're engaging with, conversations that you are continuing to entertain that are sucking the life out of you, that are draining the essence of who you are, that are stripping you of your God-given power and authority in this life. And it is only you who is in the choosing of giving that away. Nobody else can do it for you. We may think that people are taking our power, people are trying to strip our power, people are doing things to us, but in reality, we are the only decision makers within that very experience. And so this message is a straight up, straightforward message for anybody who has ears to hear and a heart to listen. Listen to that closely. If you've got a heart to listen, to comprehend this message right now, then this message is for you. If you're reading this, if you're listening to it, if you're watching it, whatever it may be, it is only the heart that can truly accept a message like this. And the message is simple. It is time for you to let go. It is time for you to let go and to heal, because you will not change them. They are not going to change because of your miraculous ability to fix people. It is not your responsibility to change a person. It's not your responsibility to fix anybody. As a matter of fact, this comes from a sense of ego. It comes from a sense of pride. It comes from a sense of feelings of superiority and inferiority, right? Because in feeling inferior, you inherently have to find a way to feel better. So you start to feel superior than others. And so you start to go around and fix people around you in order to feel that sense of superiority. It seems innocent on the surface when you're out there and you're keeping these relationship dynamics alive that are so deeply toxic, so deeply parasitic. But in reality, you are a part of that equation, and only you can choose to let go of your role and responsibility within that relationship. I am no longer here to perpetuate a message of victimhood. I'm not here to continue to push you in this corner of a lack of responsibility and accountability. Your life is your own and nobody else's. You might have been through the most toxic, narcissistic relationship, but at the end of the day, it is only you who can choose to heal from the wounds that are keeping you in that space. I'm not even talking about the wounds that were created in the dynamic of that relationship, but the ones that got you into the relationship, that one that got you manifesting this relationship into your experience and keeping that relationship. The ones that kept you from your self-respect, that would say, I am not going to put up with, I am not going to tolerate, I'm not going to stay in this specific environment, and I'm going to separate myself and put myself in a higher ground. I'm going to step onto higher levels and planes of existence, as opposed to staying in this hole, in this ditch, in this dungeon of a life that I've created for myself. It is still on you, regardless of how toxic the situation is and regardless of how victimized you may feel in that situation. I'm not saying that individuals are not victimized. I'm not saying that. I'm not victim blaming, victim shaming. I'm not shaming anybody. I am pointing out an empowering truth, which is it is only you who can choose to take those natural progressive steps into a higher and higher expression of your life, into more life, more abundance, more joy, more peace. All those things that you have desired from the very moment you touch down on this earth, those things are on the other side of whatever it is that you're holding on to. So stop holding on and let go. That's the only way that you are going to transcend and transform in this life. Now, I understand that there are many who are still in deep desire for that guidance. It is not that you need me or need somebody else's help, but the guidance is something that is calling out to you, because at this very moment in time, you need an individual who can truly understand your situation and understands the process of getting from a people pleaser, to personal power. And so I've created a coaching program that is built around this. It is breaking free from people pleasing and unleashing that personal power. That is exactly what I'm on this earth to do. And so if you are that individual who is truly ready to make that transformation, if you believe that you're ready for my coaching program, first make sure to watch the webinar below. There's a link in my bio, leads you to a webinar. And if you get through that webinar and get to booking the call at the end of that webinar, we will get on a call and I will see if you're a right fit. The only other way that you can truly work with me is on one-on-one coaching. And it's structured in the very same way, right? You're going to have 4 sessions at a time. If you're somebody who is deeply committed, you're going to do the 8-session run. And by the end of those 4 to 8 weeks, you will be a transformed individual, a deeper and deeper level of lasting transformation. So if that is you, make sure to go to the link below. Click the link below. That's going to give you access to the webinar, or click the other link that's going to allow you to book that first session with me and then continue with those 5th, 6th, 7th, and 8th sessions that are going to be the life-changing catalysts of your life experience. I promise you this. I do what I do because I know that it works. And that's the only reason that I do what I do. I used to be an open calendar, an open book, and think that I was going to help everybody, but I realized I can only help those who are truly committed, those who invested in themselves, those who are willing to invest in themselves, period. Because they're the ones who believe, who know without a shadow of a doubt that they are powerful. I appreciate you guys. I love you. Peace.